Hey guys, so here bringing you another video. Now welcome to another quick gameplay thoughts video. Again, I love doing these because as you guys know, I love game design and everything about it. So to get more of an insight of what Riot are thinking about game design, about the direction of League, I think is only a positive thing. And it is something that I will give Riot credit for. Years ago, you know, I'm a dinosaur in League. I've played since the beginning. There was no communication at the beginning of the game. And truly, there wasn't really a lot of communication until maybe like I want to say about season 6, they started getting a bit better with it. And then, you know, since then, they've just got better and better and better. So well done to Riot for that. That is huge. But this one obviously is going to be covering, furthering the conversation really of what they did in pre-season. So obviously what they did in pre-season were the 2 new dragons and objective bounties, and if they're going to talk about it, I'm not sure, but the teleport change. And before, I've not even like looked, I'm just guessing, like again, it's pre-season 2022, I can see the new dragons here. Let's just quickly give my opinion very quickly of like each thing from pre-season, and like we're now a couple weeks, or not actually, we're just over a week into the new season of me recording this, and you might be seeing this in a few days' time. But basically, I would say the season, it feels okay. Like, it is much of the same as last season. The damage is still very high, but I've accepted that, and it's very much, you know, similar to what it was last season. I've got hope for the game. We obviously had that post from RIOTS a few weeks ago, and they are launching an investigation into the damage and sustain in League, and they even had in that, you know, blog, the initial investigation does show the damage is too high. So I do have a lot of like faith for League. I don't know if that's going to be changed this season, but directly from pre-season, let's give my opinion on each of the new things. So let's do the dragons last, but let's do objective bounties first. So objective bounties, I would say they're relatively unnecessary. Like, am I offended that they're in the game? No, like they can be in the game, but I do feel there is a line of awarding the losing team a bit too much. And I do know why they have objective bounties, because the game is so heavy damage and so snowbally. It's a way to try and help the losing team get back into the game. That's the idea. I just think that's not the direction to go. Like, put it this way, if their investigation shows and they are going to reduce the damage in the game, if they do that, objective bounties should go away. Like, that's the point. The game will become less snowbally. And that's the only reason that objective bounties are needed. And, well, they're not really needed, but that's why Riot, I think, felt the need to put it in. I still think just individual champion bounties are a completely fine system as a comeback mechanic, but obviously Riot's implemented objective bounties, and I will say that there have been games that objective bounties have won me games. Like, we were being really far behind. I do think they need to look into the objective bounties mathematics a bit, that once you've claimed an objective bounty, maybe it should go on cooldown for a while, because there was once a time, and yes, we were quite far behind, but I think my team in a span of 30 seconds claimed 3 objective bounties, and you know, you're giving hundreds of gold to each player every single time that happens. It's a little bit overtuned maybe, because like we got 2 towers and maybe a dragon, and then suddenly it's like we kind of feel we're back in the game. And obviously that's the idea of objective bounties, but that's not the enemy team's fault, you know, in a way. Like, maybe the dragon is, but a top laner split pushing and getting 2 towers or something like that is going to happen. So maybe that needs to be just looked at a little bit more. Next up, the teleport change. Overall, I would say the teleport change is really good. I have felt happier in matches that I've been in mid lane, in top lane, and in bot. So overall a success, because if I'm in top lane, I actually feel like I've got an opponent. Like, a lot of the time in top, and I would say top lane maybe wasn't the biggest offending lane for it, but a lot of top laners would still teleport bot early with the old teleport. But now in top lane, people are either not taking teleport and they're taking a combat spell in top lane, which is fine, or if they are taking teleport top, they are using it to go back top. I love that. Like, it's actually feeling like top lane again. And the same goes for mid. I actually have a lane opponent in mid. You guys have watched my content in the last year when I've been playing mid. You saw my frustration of, I want to 1v1 people. I want to have a lane phase. And when my lane opponent was half the time not in mid, they were bot, you know. And obviously there were some of the big offenders there, Kali, Cat, etc. But even some mages were doing it too much too. It just became a little bit silly. And I do stand by what I said. I do eventually think Riot's going to revert the change. I think the change is basically one of those shock changes that Riot is planning, and you know, plans ahead of time, that it's a change designed to change how the community uses teleport, and then when the community kind of gets over the let's just teleport bot lane idea, they might revert teleport back to being kind of normal. That's my guess. I could be wrong, but it's kind of similar to the Akali situation when the whole League community just banded together and absolutely hated the Akali rework. What did Riot do? They nerfed her beyond belief with the full intention to buff her the next patch or the patch after that. They knew they were going to buff her again, but they just do an initial nerf to kind of ease off, like get the community to ease off the champion, ease off the whatever they're hating at the moment. That's the idea. So that's what I'm guessing they're going to be doing with teleport. Now into the dragons. So we have obviously them on the screen right now. I think I'm not the only one to say I do not know a single person that likes Chem Dragon, and obviously that's not an original thing. I've seen other people say the exact same thing, and that's the point. I do not know a single person that likes that dragon. In the way that I would define Chem Dragon is very similar in a way to like Master Yi or Tryndamere. It's why those champions are disliked. Why? Why are those champions disliked? They're very basic. Why? Because they take all the attention in the game and it puts them on them. That's what Chem Dragon does. In League, yeah, dragons are important. You want that Infernal Dragon, you want the Hextech Dragon, but a lot of the time it's not like the primary thing. When Chem is on the map, it is the primary, it takes over the game. Like whoever gets that Dragon Soul is won. Like they've just simply won the game. That's what I really don't like. It just feels unhealthy. It takes too much attention away from the actual game of League of Legends. That's what I don't like. And that is, again, it's a very similar thing to Master Yi or Tryndamere. Very basic champions, but they'll always take the attention to them. No matter how fed they are, you have to CC the Yi. You have to stop this Tryndamere split pushing. You have to do those for those champions. That's Chem Dragon in a nutshell for me. So I'm completely fine with Hextech. I will say it does still feel rather gimmicky to me, the portals, but I will accept that dragon. I have myself made a couple cool plays with the portals. I just don't think Chem is worth it. Do I think Riot's truly going to get rid of that dragon? Maybe. Riot has done reverts on some things, but it does, I would say, to the detriment of the game. I think sometimes it takes them a bit too long to admit mistakes. They have done it from time to time, and it's generally like a year after they implement something. And I would just say, as a content creator, I have a very close community. I talk to my community. I know people that have stopped playing the game because of that dragon. It's just rubbed them the wrong way completely, and they're like, until they get rid of it, I ain't coming back. I literally know people who have done that. So let's see what Riot themselves has said, though. Right, so hi, everybody. Or everyone. This is Froxzon. The Summoner's Rift team's new design lead. I don't know if it's about you, I don't know about you guys, but how many new design leads or new gameplay producer or whatever, everybody's new. I don't know why, and what I would say, maybe again communication could happen there, and my only guess, and I will say as my only guess, is from the grapevine of a few things. I do know a lot of people have stopped playing League in the last year or two. Some people have come back, obviously, but some people, or quite a lot of people, have left the game with the direction of the game. My only guess is one of two things. One, if you're a lead design lead or a lead producer of League, you have a more chance to swap to a area that you want to within Riot. And where does most designers want to work? They actually want to work on the MMO right now. So that's one thing. All the lead people want to go work on the MMO, and because they're in a kind of senior role, they have the power that they can put themselves over there. So that's one thing. But two, maybe, again, the statistics have not been good for League in a way, and maybe Riot has gone, we need to change things up. We need to get new people in because something's happened, something's not going well. Let's get new people in and change what is going on. Because the moment that Riot Axes gets promoted to whatever role he is officially, and I think he's like the head producer or something, he's like, let's launch an investigation about the health of the game. Like, that's the first thing he did. So to me, like, reading between the lines of everybody seems to be new in the heads of League of Legends in the different roles, there's something going on there. I'm just saying. So I'm a long-time member of the team and have worked on the game balance for the past 4 seasons. I'm here to write about how preseason 2022 is content. So they've been on the team for 4 seasons, 4 preseasons, but they've now just been promoted to design lead. So Chem Tech and Hextech Dragons. Let's start off with the new Elemental Rift and Souls. We're seeing positive sentiment and are generally happy with Hextech Rift. Yep, fine. But we hear your frustrations around Chemtech Rift, which we knew would be contentious with its stealth mechanic, which is awful. In testing, we found that it had great potential for fun and unique high moments. It's not fun. It's anti-fun. That's the problem. There is no fun to having big parts of the map in camo. I will say I'm biased. I do not like stealth as a mechanic anyway. But then when you're giving stealth to every champion who's not even designed to be stealth, like when there's an Evelyn in the game, you know there's going to be an Evelyn in the game. When there's a Twitch in the game, you understand that. A Shaco, you understand that. You can play around that. When everybody has it in those areas, you're like, oh, here we go. So I just really dislike that whole idea. So unique high moments like flanking from the fog as a team, but those also came with frustrating trade-offs. In particular, it can be hard to contest your own jungle and adapt to new default warding positions on the edges of Chemtech fog zones. Yeah, if you're behind, you cannot enter your jungle anymore because there could be a guy looming that's just stealth. There could be all 5 of the enemy team just kind of waiting because you can't move into your area. So we've added some scryer blooms to defensive locations to help address it. Again, that's not going to do anything. It genuinely is not going to do anything. It's an unfun mechanic. End of. They need to get rid of it. Next up is, we've also observed high levels of frustration around the Chemtech Soul. Yep, because you're giving everybody a more powerful Scion ult. Like, which may also contribute to the negative sentiment towards the terrain. No, they are separate. I do despise both of them separately, but that's the problem with the dragon. It's got 2 terrible mechanics. Like, literally, they are saying right here, they have frustrations with the terrain players, and they've got frustrations with the soul. The 2 elements of the dragon, the main 2 elements, everybody dislikes. So, we're with you that trying to face check a team that has Chemtech Soul in the Chemtech Fog is difficult, and you're usually at both a combat strength and vision deficit. We also agree that Chemtech Soul itself, regardless of the mechanics, is overpowered right now, so we're tapping down its numbers on 12.2 next patch. Again, the numbers can go down, but you're still giving everybody a revive mechanic. Like, that's mad. If you're behind, you know, we all have won games that the enemy team does get a Dragon Soul, but for this one particularly, you in essence have to win a team fight, and as you're killing a team that is stronger than you, have to then not die when they all revive. Like, usually when a game's really close like that, you might just survive killing somebody. You might be like, oh my god, that was close. Well, then with this Dragon Soul, they can probably turn around and kill you after you've killed them, and suddenly it could be a double ace situation, advantage the guys that have Chemtech. You can't make a comeback. It's a revive mechanic thing. So, if we find that high moments still don't manifest after both of these changes, yet they continue to frustrate players, we're very open to higher scope changing, including rework. So, they're not using deletion as a term here. Like, that's what I was going to say earlier. Do I actually think that they're going to remove Chemtech Dragon? No. There's no way they can do it. The reason being is, one, pride, I will say, and I know devs hate people saying that, but devs do have pride, even if they don't want to admit it, and whoever's idea was Chemtech, they really don't want to admit that it's bad. Like, no one does. Like, it doesn't matter, but just forget League. Your own job that you work right now, you don't want to be told that you've done something bad. Like, that is human nature. And obviously what happens in game dev, when you have 100 million or whatever it is monthly players of League of Legends, it's a lot of negativity to kind of have, I guess, as a game dev, and I do feel for them in that way. But I'd imagine if they do change it, do delete Chemtech Dragon, whoever did that Chemtech Dragon, or League in general, they're going to get so many people going, told you so, you should have removed it earlier. Like, that's all it's going to be. And I'll say, sometimes I think ripping off the Band-Aid quicker is probably a better idea, and I would say for Chemtech, it probably is a better idea to rip it off really quick rather than trying to patch it up. I just think, get rid of it, keep 5 dragons, like, just go. We're getting rid of Chemtech Dragon, it's going back in the cooker, we're going to rework it, we're going to redo it a bit, and then it will come back either later in the season, mid-season patch, or next pre-season. Like, that's what I would do. They need to completely rework it, and can I just offer a little bit of advice to Riot about that? Stop giving champion level mechanics to things. Like, it's ridiculous. Stop. Like, the fact that I said it in my Riot dev meeting, obviously that meeting kind of blew up in a video that I did, that question didn't specifically get answered, I think, in the meeting, and I got it answered after. that whole situation blew up. And I was like, why, is it healthy to give champion level mechanics to non-champion things, items, dragons, etc.? And Riot was like, they don't see it as a problem. Well, that's the thing. I think a lot of players do see it as a problem. Champions have lost their identity nowadays because everybody's got Scion passive with Chemtech Dragon. Every champion's got stealth like an Evelynn with Chemtech Dragon areas. Champions are losing their identity. So can I just offer a little, stop giving that? And what I would say, the most thing that makes sense, obviously Infernal Dragon is a much of a similar thing, but Chemtech Dragon to me, and I know people say that's kind of a champion level mechanic, but obviously there's very vast differences here. One's a revive, like you're coming back to life, one's a stealth. I would say Chemtech Dragon would make the most sense as a dot, as a tick dot, like Singed. Singed has his poison trail, that's Chemtech, all that stuff. Wouldn't that make the most sense? Just do a tick damage, like an extra Leandri's type of ability. Like, that makes the most sense. It's not going to break the game. It's not going to frustrate players as much. Like, it's a tick, and it makes sense. It lives within the dragon, it's poison, it makes sense. So, I don't know. And again, you could have poison zones in areas. There's not right now a mechanic on the map that actively hurts you if you walk over. What happens if Chemtech burns places of the map or has poison areas that if you walk over them, the dot of Chem Dragon goes on you? I've literally just come up with that right now, and that to me sounds way better than what current Chemtech is. It's all about the poison effect of Chemtech. So the Dragon Soul gives you all a dot, and the zone areas, there's poison areas that if you walk over, you take damage or something. And maybe, who knows, it could be not to give your own area a disadvantage, you only take the dot damage in your opponent's area, and if you walk over your own poison trail, it gives you a tiny buff. Something like that. Like, if it's in your area, you get a tiny buff. On a poison area, it kind of buffs you, like Singed, he drinks a potion with Chemtech stuff. And in the enemy area, you take poison damage. Done. Easy peasy. Next thing, please. Like, to me, there's just a lot more that they could do there. So that's what I would say is they should probably just rip the band-aid off, get rid of that dragon, but let me know what you guys think down below. Objective bounties. So as I said earlier, I don't think they're needed, but let's see what Riot says. So next is objective bounties. On launch, we agreed that we were turning on too early when the game was still relatively close, and falling off too late after the losing team had already crawled back some of the deficit. That's what I said. I got 3 in a row, and I was like, well, we're back in the game. It needs to be a lot snappier of like, okay, they're fine, they've got some gold back, turn it off. They also had deactivation timers that would reset anytime an objective with a active bounty was engaged, which led to some pretty extreme gold swings when teams chain secured objectives without letting the bounty status reset. Yeah, that's literally what happened to me. Quite a few times, actually. Thanks to all your feedback and game data, we were able to stabilize the system relatively quickly. The first hour that the feature went live gave us more information that we could produce in internal testing in 200 years. Oh my god, they're calling out the meme. So if you guys don't know the meme, because I actually had a guy on stream the other day going, what is the 200 meme? So you will hear people a lot, when Riot do a design choice that people don't like, a lot of people go, oh, don't worry guys, they've got 200 years game design experience. What happened was, it was all about the Wukong update. And I believe it's a content creator called Harambe. I could be wrong, but I think that's who he is. And he is a Wukong one-trick. I think he's very high rating in North America, I think. And I'm going to say right now, and obviously I'm not a big fan of one-tricks, but a challenger level one-trick is going to know more about the champion than a game dev at Riot who probably either doesn't play League, really, or is like gold. Like, the one-trick will know more. And basically what was happening is that they were planning changes to Wukong, and the Harambe guy was like, please let me help. Like, please talk to me. I don't like that. That's not a good idea. Please let me help. And by the way, Riot have in previous years invited very, very high up one-tricks to dev meetings and had conversations with them just to talk to them, just to say, like, is this good? Would this be good for your champion, but still balanced? And for some reason, they weren't having any of it from this Harambe guy. They just weren't listening. They just didn't care. And it eventually got to a Twitter conversation, I believe, and it came to a Rioter basically is like, we don't kind of need you. As a team, we have 200 years game design experience. Thank you very much. That's basically what it is. And obviously, it's a ridiculously stupid thing to say. Who cares if it's 200 years game design experience? That means sod all if you know nothing about Wukong. Like, that's the problem. So that's where the 200 years thing, and obviously Riot themselves is leaning towards, like, maybe that was a dumb thing to say. And that's the thing, like, that's the point. The first hour that a feature went live, they get more data than they would in 200 years. That's the problem. Why do things get released broken so often? Because the data that Riot can get in testing internally is tiny. It's minor. Even if they test something for 6 months with their own internal dev team and design team and testing team, it's basically nothing in the grand scheme of launching it, and in the first couple hours they will have way more data than they ever would have collected. That is why things get sometimes released broken. That is why sometimes they will release, like Zeri's a great example. Zeri, the new champion. She is thankfully going to be hopefully a bit more balanced on launch, because people discovered you can do a full AP build on her. You press Q once on an inhibitor or the Nexus and it gets one shot. Literally, why did that happen? How did that even get to that state on PBE? Because Riot may never have tested it. Like, that's the point. There's not many people to test it. So that's just to say. So we've also received feedback that objective bounties can feel like they punish a team for winning. While winning teams are, by definition, disfavored by comeback mechanics, we don't believe it's guaranteed that a losing team will claim an objective bounty. I mean, it's pretty easy to get a tower, though. Like, that's pretty easy. But anyway, with post-launch balancing in place, the current dynamic seems appropriate. If the winning team plays better, they keep bounty claims to a minimum. And if the losing team plays better, they claim the bounties and use them as a springboard to get back into the game. While we're still fine-tuning the balance here, we're optimistic about this feature for the long term. It increases the number of available strategies when behind, rewards creativity with macro movements, and encourages the losing team to rally around a plan rather than give up. So, again, it's obviously objective bounties are designed for the losing team to kind of not feel as demoralized, and I get that. But I still don't know if they're 100% needed. Like, I've spoken about it over the years in the past. The downfall of World of Warcraft a lot was hand-holding the player base. The World of Warcraft was a pretty decently hardcore game, and the more Blizzard held the hand of the player and made the game easier and easier and easier, and for a lot of people, it was more welcoming. It was better for the new player, which is true in some regards, but that was the downfall of WoW. That's where it started going downhill. I do think League has been doing that, obviously, the last couple of years. Like, it all started way back when they did the timers of the jungle. Like, that's obviously a very much hand-holding thing. They might just be doing it a bit too much. That's what I would say. League is a pretty damn hard game. You know, it's a hard game in comparison. I play other games fairly often. I play shooter games, and I will just say right now, not even kidding, I reckon those games. Why? They're easier than League. Like, just straight up. League is a hard game. I don't think we need to get our hand held this much. So I will say that. So I will say also one thing, I just reminded myself. Technically, I said earlier, the teleport change might not be in this because for some reason the teleport change wasn't in preseason. Even though it's ridiculous that it wasn't in preseason, it was launched this season. I just remembered. So yeah, that might actually be something they don't talk about at all. Well, actually, they talk about it there. I just saw. But anyway, runes, summoner spells, and items. So we also changed some runes since preseason launch. Lethal Tempo has, despite 11.24 nerfs, still skewed more melee power curves too heavily towards early game. Yasuo Yone. So patch 12.2 will give it more scaling profile, so it's weaker early, stronger late. Glacial Augment has landed in a pretty good spot for melee users, but we hope to see a few more enchanters pick it over Summonary as more defensive and high utility option in the long term. The only champions that I'm seeing take Glacial are Morgana and Thresh at the moment. First Strike has also landed well for both carries and assassins. It's competing well with other keystones as it opened up a different place off of them. Yeah, like First Strike seems okay. There are some games that is worthless, it's awful, but there are some games that you actually do pretty well with it, and that is completely fine for that type of rune. That's what it's supposed to be. Kleptomancy, which obviously is by definition, a very similar vibe to this. That was the problem with Klepto. Klepto was always reliable. You always make money from Klepto. You always got potions from it. It was always a good thing. First Strike can be a bad thing. It can be a curse. Sometimes there will be games better that it would have been Electrocute or Dark Harvest for a mage or whatever. That would have been better. But there are some games that First Strike is giving you over 1,000 gold at 20 minutes. You're like, this is fantastic. So it's good. I overall quite like it. And then here, while not part of preseason's initial updates, 12.1's teleport changes have landed pretty well. We're seeing relatively minimal changes in win rates and pick rates from early data while still meeting goals for reducing its influence on early skirmishes. 100%. Like, again, it feels like mid lane again. It feels like top lane again. It doesn't feel like the game is just all about teleporting bot. That is really good. So thumbs up there. And finally, let's talk items. Most of the item changes have landed relatively well, with only a few post-launch adjustments needed and no huge balance outliers. We're generally happy with them, but as always, we're all ears for your thoughts and we'll continue to fine-tune them as needed. So I think items are in a bit of a stronger, like a better place than they were at the beginning, let's say, of the item update all the way last year. And I do think part and parcel of that is Riot has abandoned one of their design ethoses that they had, that for some reason Riot wanted to be like, everything is about, you can do whatever you want and you can build every single game, you can build all the items in the game and you can be not punished for that. Like, you know, item diversity, that's like the biggest thing that we heard for like a whole year. Why? Like, it was just silly. Like, you can't have mythic items. By definition, they're all kind of individually overpowered. They're the really buffed up item. And then have really strong legendary items as well to go with that. It just makes balance a nightmare. So what I think they've done, and what I think what Riot said, they still want to have mythics feel diverse. They still want mythics to have that place of, they all are really strong and they all have their place. But what Riot did say also was they've kind of given up the fight of making all legendaries have item diversity. Yes, there's situational items that in some games it's better to buy, you know, an MR item here or an anti-shield item here or an anti-heal item there. There's situational items. But most of the games, you're probably just going to buy the same cookie cutter legendaries for whatever champion you like playing. That is fine. The mythic should be the option in the game rather than the legendaries most of the time. And that is healthier. It's easier to balance. You can't balance all these items, all these champions and expect the game to be healthy. It's nearly impossible. There's too many champions in the game for that to be. So there we go. So we couldn't have made preseason 2022 what it is without your feedback. Please continue to send us your thoughts, ideas, and feedback. Thanks for playing, and I'll see you on the Rift. Good luck in Season 12. So thank you very much for Riot for doing this. So again, this guy is the game design lead, Summoner's Rift team. And there you go. So, yeah, pretty cool. So if a Rioter is seeing this, hopefully you enjoyed the thoughts and the feedback. And obviously in the comment section, if you're my audience, please leave your feedback on all the different things that we spoke about today. As I have said, I have been invited from time to time to Riot Dev meetings, and I absolutely love being in those. And I hope I'll be invited to another one pretty soon. But obviously they only really invite people to dev meetings when they're actually doing changes. Or if a writer is watching and just wants to chat about everything, then I'd be up for a chat. Like, literally, I love game design. I'm actually passionate about it. I did a degree in computer science game design. I've played League for 10 years. I adore stuff like this. Like, trust me, I appreciate these blogs probably more, well, way more than the average player, but way more than probably most people anyway. I'm the type of guy that when a game gets released, if there's a dev book that comes with it, I buy the dev book. Like, I love that type of stuff. I truly do. So anyway, that's going to be it. If you guys enjoyed, do throw a like on the video. Let me know what you think down below. Do you agree with me, disagree with me? You know, just have a nice chat. And yeah, please do subscribe if you're wanting more content like this in the future. But anyway, that's going to be it. Like, comment, subscribe. See you guys next time. Peace.
Call down the reckoning to bring back hope and peace. Restore our glory to live forever. Bring down the dark regime. I know how to unleash eternal power.